All right, back on the Young Turks. Now we're going to have a great and interesting guest for you. Ronald Kessler, he's written the book, In the President's Secret Service, Behind the Scenes with Agents in the Line of Fire and the Presidents That They Protect. He's also got some thoughts on Van Jones and what Obama's real agenda is with Van Jones. So this should be a very interesting conversation. Ronald, welcome to the Young Turks.
Hi, thanks.
Let's start with your book. You weren't in the Secret Service, but you talked to the people in the Secret Service. That's correct, right?
Yeah, I talked to over 100 agents, either current or former, and also the Secret Service cooperated on the book as well.
Right. Now, I'm a little concerned about what the Secret Service is doing now. They're allowing these guys with guns to come within, to the Obama events. Not within the Obama events, but to the Obama events, basically outside the door, almost. That doesn't seem normal to me. I don't remember people around Bush events with guns and assault rifles. What's happening there, Ron?
Well, it's just a bunch of nuts is what's happening. But the Secret Service does keep an eye on them, does keep them under surveillance, and they are kept far away from the actual event. So the Secret Service doesn't think it's a real threat, but clearly they're hurting their own cause. They're coming across as idiots, and it's really unfortunate.
Now, if the Secret Service wanted to, they could clear a wider area around the president, right?
Yeah, they could, and they just feel that there's enough of a perimeter established so that there isn't a real threat. But they do have to watch them, and that does take manpower, and so. But it's just like they're exercising their Second Amendment rights. It's just like people exercising their First Amendment rights by saying Bush was behind the 9/11 attack, or that or whatever people on the right say about Obama. He was born in Kenya. It's all protected by the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. Now,
Ron, if they work within the perimeter, obviously it wouldn't be protected within the Second Amendment,
yeah.
Right? Because you have to protect the president, and it's federal jurisdiction where the president is, right? So it's not like you can say I have a right to be right next to the president with a gun because I'm in New Hampshire.
No,
that's
right. No, the Secret Service really has a wide latitude in protecting the president, and if they see anything suspicious, they can detain the person and possibly arrest the person. They have to act very, very quickly, obviously, and courts have upheld their right to take very quick action.
Now, I know that the Secret Service, of course, are not supposed to talk much about their time with, certainly in the private lives of the presidents, but they seem to have nice notes about Obama when they talk to you. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And also Bush and whoever else is in the book.
Yeah. They tell me that Barack Obama treats them with respect and consideration, and both Obama and Michelle have invited them to dinner, although Obama continues to smoke on a regular basis despite his claim to have given it up 95%. And Bush also treated them very well, and Laura did, in contrast to Jimmy Carter, who was so disdainful of agents that he actually told them he didn't want them to say hello to him in the morning on his way to the Oval Office. It was just too much bother, apparently, to say hello back to another human being. He was also known as the phoniest president because he would pretend to carry his own luggage, but it was actually empty, or else he would carry it just in front of the cameras and then give it to aides. He would come in at 5 in the morning to the Oval Office and tell the press office sometimes to tell the press that he was in there working hard for the American people at 5 a.m., but then he'd nod off to sleep on the sofa. And
Ron, where do you? Those are interesting claims. So, is it Secret Service people telling you that? And
yeah.
Are they allowed to say things like that if they're true?
No, they're supposed to be sworn to secrecy, and they are very secretive, more so than the FBI and the CIA. I've found, because I've written books on those subjects. But I use my magic potions. Usually I waterboarded them. They work pretty well.
Now, but to be fair here, Ron, I've seen from your writings you believe you're a little bit more on the right wing, to say the least, from what I'm reading, right?
I am on the conservative side.
Right, on the conservative side, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a free country, obviously. So would conservative Secret Service agents be more likely to talk to you than progressives if they feel like you're like-minded?
Well, I have a long background as an investigative reporter. I think I just know how to get people to talk. One of my books on the FBI led to the dismissal of William Sessions over his abuses. It's a very bipartisan book. Both Democrats and Republicans are impaled. Jenna Bush, for example, is described as being very difficult with her agents, going through red lights to try to evade them. She went to a Halloween party with her boyfriend, Henry Hager, who's now her husband, and he became so drunk that they had to take him to the hospital. Now,
that's their private lives, though, and they're the kids. I don't want to get into that. So, and I don't put that on them at all. I don't know any kid that doesn't get too drunk at some point. Or they're not. It's not. She wasn't an absolute kid, but she was much younger.
Yeah, but this does, have something to do with public policy because, first of all, if she were captured by terrorists, we'd be in bad shape.
No, I hear you. She's got to be more sensible, but at the same time, she's young. Okay, so let's leave that.
She's not young anymore.
She was then. But let's leave that aside. Let's get to some of the policy things that you've written about. Now, you think that Obama had a secret agenda with Van Jones? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Why do you think he hired Van Jones?
Well, I think that Van Jones' general background was certainly known to the White House. They didn't hire him out of a vacuum. He was in public life. They knew what his reputation was.
Ron, don't you think they hired? Yeah, of course they knew about him. But what he's mainly known for is trying to bring the urban communities and the environmental communities together and to create jobs in those communities using new environmental legislation, et cetera, regulations. Now, you might disagree with some of those, but isn't that really the heart of his work and why they hired him?
Well, you think that someone who believes that our government was behind the 9/11 attack should be paid by taxpayers and working in the White House?
That's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you a different question. It's not like do you think that Obama thought, he thinks Bush was behind 9/11, let's hire him? Or do you think he thought, hey, let me hire this guy because I think he can create green jobs, and then found out, this 9/11 thing, that sucks that he's in favor of that, I got to let him go? I mean, which of those things that you think is more reasonable?
I think he obviously hired him because of his skills in the environmental area, but that, there are plenty of people who are hired for those good reasons who have all kinds of problems, whether it's
okay, so I wanted to establish that. No, I understand what you're saying about his problems, right? But I wanted to establish that they didn't hire him because of the problems. They hired him because he would be good at that. They thought he would be good at that job.
Right.
Now, when you get to the problems, look, I don't believe in the 9/11 stuff, but on the other hand, I look at Jesse Ventura, who we've had on the show, right? I think he's a smart guy. He's certainly an interesting guy, an experienced guy. I don't agree. We had a little bit of a debate about 9/11 with him on the show, right? But would I exclude Jesse Ventura from any job that he's qualified for because he believes in the 9/11 conspiracy? I wouldn't. Do you think we should? We should disqualify people based on if they believe in one wacky thing?
Yeah, I think they're nuts, and they should be and they shouldn't be involved in public policy. Period.
So every birther, including some congressmen, a lot of Republican congressmen who said, "Hey, we should look into that," they should also be disqualified from now in Republican administrations.
Yeah, and along with that's right, the birthers and the truthers and any other people who believe in these vast conspiracies.
Okay.
So, I study health policy a lot. This is Richard Eskow, and Chuck Grassley has always been a very effective Republican senator in the field of health policy, and yet a couple weeks ago, Senator Grassley signed on to the ludicrous assertion that there's a proposal that the U.S. government decide which citizens live or die, the so-called death panel. Would you think that Senator Grassley should be excluded from service in any future administration?
No, I think that's quite different from saying, out of thin air that the government was behind 9/11 and all the, the horrible implications of it. That our government is so evil and corrupt that it would actually, kill 3,000 people. I mean,
but that's a great point, though, Ron. I'm sorry. Let me just press on that because I think R.J. brings up a great point. Because you're saying it's terrible, to say that the government would be so evil as to kill those people. But aren't the death panel people saying the same thing? That the government would be so evil that they would kill your grandmother?
No, I mean, I don't agree with. I think they are exaggerating also, but they're not. First of all, saying that anybody was killed, and then secondly, they're not, claiming that they were, killed for some nefarious purpose. They're
well, the nefarious purpose being a government taking over of healthcare. I mean, I've heard it ad nauseum from the talk show hosts, but also from the politicians, Sarah Palin, Chuck Grassley. So, I mean, it seems to be at least a fine line, doesn't it?
You think that these people, that Van Jones should still be in office, or what?
Now, I don't think that his statements in the past necessarily disqualify him, because I think he was good for that job. Now, but I think it's an open question.
That whites, are polluting rivers in order to do something to blacks. You think that's appropriate for a government official to say?
I would have a debate with Van Jones about when he thinks white people did X or black people did X, and I think that might be an interesting conversation. Would I ban him from ever serving in a useful job because we have a disagreement? No, because in the past, certainly, quote-unquote, white people did do terrible things to black people, including enslaving them, lynching them, et cetera, et cetera. The question is, when did that stop? How did it stop? Where do you draw that line? I think it's an interesting conversation, but I wouldn't ban anyone for having that conversation.
And I think we need to make the distinction between opinions a person has had and repudiated and positions a person continues to have. I think I would not want a government official to believe that white people have deliberately slaughtered black people en masse and continue to do so through polluting the rivers and so on. But if someone's expressed an opinion, I know he was a member of a group that he walked away from, Storm or something like that, if they've repudiated that, then I think, this is the land of redemption, isn't it?
I don't believe in redemption. I think, for example, when someone murders someone, I don't care how many times they apologize. They murdered someone, and they should live with the consequences. And I think the consequences of making statements like that and saying that the government killed 3,000 people is that you don't serve in the White House. That's my opinion,
Right. Now, I understand, and we're out of time, so we're going to have to leave it at you not believing in redemption. It's an interesting debate. It's an interesting discussion. And to be clear, of course, Van Jones didn't kill anyone. And I'll be, to go to the other side, to answer your question, after the Van Jones thing, I rethought what my concerns about Ron Paul. Because Ron Paul wrote in some literature before that had very bad racial implications, to say the least. But I thought, you know what? I'm with RJ. I do believe in redemption. I do believe in second chances. And I don't think that disqualifies Ron Paul from having a legitimate debate today.
Right.
So I believe in hearing all these people out. But Ron, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It was definitely an interesting conversation.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and everybody, the book is In the President's Secret Service, Behind the Scenes with Agents in the Line of Fire and the Presidents They Protect, and we'll put it up on theyoungturks.com so you can get it from our library as well.
And I forgive him.
RJ believes in redemption. All right, Young Turks.